Hello there. This is Spiral, here to impart different perspectives gathered along the path of growth and authentic self-realization. Before delving into the presentation, it should be said that spirit and/or sentience both refer to the same aspect of awareness, and when they are used in reference within this material, whether separately or in tandem with one another, both words are meant to convey the same meaning. There are many aspects and seeming paradoxical hurdles each face while coming to know their spirit and the active interface of infinity. The process of perceptual growth goes hand in hand with breaking down limiting barriers so that one can truly begin entering the expansive flow that spirit is and that spirit embodies as emanations of infinity. Spirit is conscious sentient awareness. There are many different aspects and attributes of each distinct sentience. With that being said, sentient spirit tends not to be a singular entity residing in any singular location. Spirit is multidimensional and has a quantum way of functioning in many regions of space and time simultaneously. For a snapshot perspective, each sentience has different unique and defining characteristics, which build up its energetic signature in distinct attributes. Spirit could be compared with the classification of artists. Each artist has a particularly unique style in creating their art, and the category of art itself has a multitude of different broad styles and subsections of art, such as realism, street art, abstract art, sculptures, and the list goes on. The difference is art contained here on Earth has a limited amount of different categories and different styles that the artists take on, albeit each artist has a unique style and is not repeated from one artist to the next, but there's still a limited amount of choices that an artist can choose from when it comes to different categories until new ones are created, of course. But when it comes to spirit, the options and variations are absolutely limitless. There are an infinite amount of different types of spirit art, and each spirit has an undefinably original style to their beingness. The base codes of sentient life are to creatively expand, gain wisdom by always pushing the boundaries of the known, and in turn experience within all the varying degrees of potential that exist within creation as a whole. The multiverse is teeming with life in all areas and regions of space. It all exists as a direct result of the consciousness chip known as sentience or spirit. For another part and parcel of the greater picture, there is the universe bubble or the multiverse bubble, which contains the third dimension. The third dimension is the most dense area of existence in which human forms operate. But that is just the ground floor of creation, so to speak. There are an infinite amount of different dimensional variations, all of which are very dissimilar from the third dimension. Within each dimension there are an unimaginable amount of different inhabitable frequencies, which are distinct and unique from one another. To further upon this, within each dimension there are innumerable amounts of original and separate timelines. All the different regions and holographic sections of inhabitable experience stated previously only represent a minuscule slice of the actual picture within this multiverse bubble. And yes, when I say this bubble, it is meant to hint at other multiverse bubbles outside of the bubble in which we currently reside. The other bubbles outside of the one we reside in now I cannot go into, because I do not have the slightest clue of their makeup and/or build, only that they exist. To make an attempt at speaking about them would be overstepping my bounds of current understanding. This channel was not made to present material that cannot be explained through direct knowing and experience. In other words, this channel is not here to present mystical half-guesses. Although this does not mean that all the information that will be presented on here is wholly accurate and/or truthful. It is as close to the truth or my perspective of the truth as it can be. But then again, truth is relative, is it not? Now, back to the beginning core topic of spirit. All the regions of inhabited creation enumerated previously are basically the playground that spirit plays on, experiences in, creates with, and grows throughout. Sentience is not limited to singular places or singular experiences at any given moment. Now, I cannot speak for all sentients, but a good portion are experiencing in many places in many varying degrees of experience simultaneously. If one would like to go about the process of learning something or gaining information about a certain subject, it would be far more productive to read 10 books all at once rather than one book at a time. But in the limited human form, reading 10 books simultaneously is not exactly possible, at least not yet. This is just an analogy to convey the manner in which sentient learns and grows. Humanoid forms are not the only forms sentient spirit inhabits. There are also planetary bodies, stars, planets, animals, elements, nebulas, galaxies, non-material energetic forms, pure energies, and much, much more. Due to my limited understanding from the third dimension standpoint of this current incarnation, I cannot even begin to go into the infinity of different forms and non-forms that sentience uses to expand an experience within creation. This is neither here nor there, as the functions of spirit are not about definition or categorization. Those are merely downfalls and or limitations placed by the ego identity and rational thinking mind. Sentience just is, without trying to make rational sense of what it is. It knows that there is no reason to define things to the rational mind. Sentience grows and understands through feeling and experiencing, and not rigid definition and categorization. When beginning the path of attaining greater experience, wisdom, and relative truth, spirit plays a very vital role in pushing along the process of defining things to the rational mind, but this is only done to loosen the grip of the ego identity. This is merely a means to an end of the limited ego experience. Paradoxes are the nature of infinity, and with them they allow for all potential to be present. Both outcomes in every single option can and does exist, because infinity wouldn't be infinity if every option and potential didn't exist. That would be a limitation, and limitation is not a word in the vernacular of infinity. Everything in creation is logical, and it has to be logical to exist. But the logic of creation is on a completely different playing field than the logic of the rational ego mind. The ego mind seeks to define and categorize. This is done to create rigid descriptions which produce and prop up the illusion of its existence. The ego is built up through a lifetime of experience and programming, but all the descriptions it creates and holds onto are false perceptions of what it is, and the more that it can get the awareness to identify with this or that, the more static and defined it becomes. Sentience is fluid and thrives in the unknown. To gain new experiences in the unknown, one must be willing to drop all the temporary ego illusions of the known. In order to help paint a better picture, I'm going to present 2 quotes from Armando Torres' book called Encounters with the Nagual. Quote, "Our heritage is a stable house where we can live, but we have transformed it into a fort for the defense of the self, or rather a jail, where we condemn our energy to weaken our lifelong imprisonment. Our best years, feelings, and forces are wasted in forever repairing and bolstering that house, because we have wound up identifying ourselves with it." This quote is referring to the lifelong process of the ego identity slowly building up the jail cells around the authentic driver of experience, which is our sentient awareness. The more the ego is able to define itself, then the more capable it is to get the awareness to identify with the illusionary description of itself and the illusionary description of the surrounding world. These pseudo-perspectives of the ego identity are built up through programming of the form and the awareness. Both of those constructed perceptions of ourselves and the world around us are created by the collective agreement of the mass consensus reality that is mostly comprised of ego identities. The two of those false perceptions are a double-pronged approach to keep the existence of the ego identity and the ego-defined world alive and kicking. The more that one identifies themselves with the illusionary description of the ego-constructed reality and self, the more power they give away to that solid and static identity referred to as ego. All the while, authentic sentience is slowly getting pushed out of its rightful position as the driver of experience. Almost every single distortion in humanity can be boiled down to this simple yet not so simple conundrum. Here is the second quote from the same book stated previously. The universe is not reasonable. Its essence is beyond all description. Security and common sense are islands floating around in a bottomless sea, and we only cling to them out of fear. The we that is being referred to in the quote previously is the ego identity that we innocently believe to be ourselves, when in actuality the ego identity is a no thing. The only power it holds is the power that we freely give away to it. Its whole construct is merely a house of cards, comprised solely of illusionary definitions and descriptions. There is a distinct and heart-wrenching fear that comes when facing the truth of the greater reality, and the fact that our ego is and never has been our authentic self. This fear creeps up on us like a shady character in a dark alley. But it is not fear emanating from our authentic spirit. That fear comes directly from the heart of the beast known as ego, because it knows that it can be taken out permanently if we so choose to take back our power by birthright and blow down its house of cards. The process of deprogramming its faulty existence is a difficult process, because we honestly believe that identity to be ourselves. But the more that one goes through their personal history to untie all the illusionary knots of the identity, the easier it becomes. In essence, it is a tedious process of deprogramming the form, cognition, and awareness. And in doing so, we clean off all the illusionary junk created by the ego identity, so that we, the authentic spirit sentience, can take back the wheel of our experience. Rightfully so. In the beginning stages, the process is tough as nails, but the more we begin to feel, see, experience, and understand our authentic spirit self, the clearer the picture becomes. After a while, it becomes a joyous endeavor to uproot the ego tyrant, which has robbed us of so much time and authentic experience. That just about sums up this first presentation. And originally it was a bit longer, well actually quite a bit longer, about 45 to 50 minutes, and went into many different topics. But during the editing of the video, I decided that it may be a better idea to cut it up into segments and present the portion about sentience or ego, and then post the other subjects, perspectives, and methods in later videos. I hope those who listened to this found some benefit in it. And if you did, or if you have any questions, then feel free to use the comment section. I'm looking forward to seeing all the people that get attracted to this channel and the communication and sharing that is to come. Thanks for listening. Spiral out.